What's up everyone, Joe Gray here today to talk about flywheel training, more specifically the Exxentric kBox 5 active platform, which we have had in our gym for the majority of this year. And now I'm ready to share all the pros, cons, details, good stuff around what this is, how it works, and whether you should be looking at adding this to your home gym or not. At the beginning of this year, the kBox was added to our review pipeline. It was the winner of said pipeline voting results, and Exxentric was nice enough to send it our way for free for sake of review today. You may have seen some details in the first look video, but in case you haven't, the couple of things I was looking for or had in my head around getting this in the gym were: first, Exxentric and their kBox devices are arguably the most well-known and well-refined flywheel devices on the planet. I was expecting a seamless experience from the beginning to the end in terms of fit, finish, feel, the performance. Everything about this would be premium, as their price certainly reflects a premium product. Second, because this was one of the hottest summers on record with over 50 100-degree days in California, I was hoping to be able to use this inside. So looking at the portability aspect of this in a garage gym, home gym type setting. And third was that it would fit in well in my gym. Not only the look and feel, but the actual performance and the use of flywheel training in my own personal programming, as well as my wife's, and sprinkling in my daughter's use as well. So we're going to take a look at flywheel training from the viewpoint of the Exxentric kBox 5 and how it fits and grooves and moves with those three aspects in mind. One quick housekeeping item: I already mentioned that Exxentric sent this to me, as well as all of the various attachments and goodies for the sake of this review. The other piece is that they did provide an affiliate link as well. So the link in the description, if you choose to buy an Exxentric kBox after this or any of their goodies, if you use that link, it does help me support what I do here and throughout the home gym community. So use that link, support me, I appreciate it. Let's get in. Quick primer on flywheel training and specifically the kBox in case you didn't watch that first look video. Flywheels and cable machines are similar in that you can connect your favorite cable attachments and perform various exercises: lateral raises, curls, rows, you name it. They differ though in terms of their execution of those exercises. A cable machine, you select a weight and then gravity does its work in terms of providing the resistance. You have a fairly consistent resistance throughout. Obviously strength curves play in, but the weight weighs the same weight no matter whether you're at the top, the bottom of the rep, etc. Flywheels, on the other hand, are inconsistent with each rep. And the reason being is that the output in terms of the resistance is determined by the input, which is how hard you work. So the harder you curl, the harder the machine fights back. So each and every rep is a variable resistance. Depending on how hard you as the athlete are working, it will work back harder to push back against that. Okay, so that's a real quick primer on flywheels in general. So let's dig deeper into the kBox itself. The kBox is, as expected, a very polished piece of equipment. The powder coat, the finishing touches, the stickers, the platform itself, the attachments, everything is very clean, aesthetic, smooth, and overall appears like a very robust piece of gym equipment. No matter where you take this, if you store it inside next to your furniture or keep it out in your garage gym or travel with it, it's going to fit in well and look nice. Their attachments are fairly straightforward. None of them are underbuilt or overbuilt like crazy. They are just what they need to be. They allow you to perform the various exercises on the platform itself. The kBox comes with a shackle device instead of a standard carabiner. This allows the strap to move back and forth freely, but also, of course, attach your cable attachments. The shackle works very well in terms of its safety and holding on to attachments in general. The struggle is that it only really works cleanly by itself with kBox's own attachments. A more standard carabiner tends to accept cable attachments of different sizes much more readily. This struggles in that regard. So I'm pretty regularly having to slide a carabiner into the shackle itself to then also attach the cable attachment that I want to use. The grip material that they put on top of the platform is great. I'm more accustomed to something like the skateboard grip tape, which is not my favorite. It tends to tear up your shoes if you happen to accidentally rub against it with your arms or hands or anything. You lose skin. This is nice and grippy without being abrasive, which is a good fit. And it also seems to hold up very well. I see no signs of wear and tear or breakdown over the last several months. The strap itself on the Flywheel has two items that kind of irk me a little. One is that it has a tendency to get twisted. If you stop your set, put it down, and it happens to twist incorrectly, it ends up pulling wrong, and then you end up with an issue, which is that it can pull and grind a little bit on the metal. It not only makes the reps less than ideal, but as you can see, the strap itself can start to fray and otherwise break down, which is a safety concern. Second, and this is a function of the Flywheel itself, is that the strap doesn't pull in a straight fashion every time. So cable attachment is coming in and out of the cable directly in front of you every time. With the Flywheel, because of the way it wraps and unwraps, you're coming off of the right side on one rep and then the left side on the next. And it's a difference of close to about an inch from side to side, which can be kind of jarring, especially on some belt squat type movements where it's pulling a little each way. It's not my favorite experience. All of these things are kind of nitpicky. I've explained in the past that when I'm looking at something that I consider to be a premium option, I'm a little pickier in the way that I review it. So I make sure I point out some of these finer details. The plates go on this pin on the front of the Flywheel with this hexagon post and the cap on the end, which keeps everything in place. There's quite a few times where that just doesn't engage correctly. It's inconsistent. When I was trying to film it, of course it worked correctly every time. So it's one of those things where sometimes you kind of pull and whatever, you can't operate with one hand, which is kind of annoying. It's not the smoothest experience that I've found to take on and off the different plates. I think a magnetic solution or something that's a little more just go in and come off might be a bit smoother. When we're talking about portability, a typical cable machine obviously has absolutely none. My FT2 weighs a ton and is a huge pain to move. And that's if you're looking at something like a Beyond Power of Ultra 1, you typically have no portability in a cable machine to be able to move it from, say, outside in a garage to inside to escape the heat. With the kBox, that is a potential reality. There are a couple of items around the portability and let's call it storage factor that I think could be looked at and addressed here though. The kBox doesn't store very well in any way other than flat on its feet. Because it's a platform and has kind of an awkward shape in general, it actually takes up more floor space than my Freak Athlete Hyper Pro. Now, obviously, that's going upwards because it's got vertical storage, but that's kind of the deal there. This is taking up more physical real estate on the floor than a much larger unit because of the way that it can tilt and get out of the way. With that is also the portability aspect. So being able to take it from storage and put it somewhere other than where it currently is. Again, because it's a kind of awkward shape, as well as you've got the shackle sticking out of the top side, you end up having a bear hug situation to be able to pick it up and move it and put it wherever you want to. It would be great, again, if it had wheels or something that allowed it to store upright. You could kind of drag it like a suitcase of some kinds. It would move much easier. You'd also then possibly be able to put the plates and cable attachments you want underneath it to be able to pull with it. Otherwise, you end up having to, again, bear hug and carry all that stuff and try and get to where you're gonna go. And it's just not as portable as I think I thought it was going to be originally. Add to that that depending on the exercises you plan to do, if you want to do, say, one thing, you may only need one disc. But if I wanted to do a full body workout, say I wanted to do curls, lateral raises, as well as squats and rows, I would need probably all 4 of my discs, as well as a number of cable attachments and the flywheel itself. So that is a pretty hefty amount of things I need to carry, which becomes not as portable as once believed. They do sell a carry bag, which I think is pretty dang close. You could likely not only store all of the discs in that bag itself, as well as toss in a cable attachment, 2 or maybe even 3, and carry that on your shoulder while you pick up the platform. So we're getting closer in that regards. I just think that there's potentially another solution that manages to put them all together and wheel them out. For the most part, we ended up not taking it inside very often because it was just too much to bring in, adjust, set up, carry back out, etc. Okay, so let's talk about the actual performance of the kBox with various exercises. The very first time most people use a flywheel, myself, my wife, my daughter included, they have a fairly jarring experience. So if you have history using a cable machine, you've probably learned at some point to kind of control the rep in a different cadence. You pause at the bottom a little bit, control it up, squeeze, and then reverse that motion. You have a pause both at the bottom and at the top. With flywheel training, that's non-existent. There is no pausing throughout the reps. This is something you really have to spend some time finding the feel for with flywheel training. Because flywheel training requires you to put maximum effort into every single rep, so then that way you can get the most out of each rep itself, because it is constantly moving and there is no control over that cadence, there's no pausing between reps, it is a very difficult exercise from beginning to end. This is something that can be a teaching tool in and of itself. Flywheel training can teach you to put maximum effort into each and every rep from the beginning to the end, as opposed to what a lot of people do, which is have a set of 12, the first 8 reps are basically garbage and the last 4 are tough. They don't really wake up or put anything into any reps other than the last couple. So flywheel training can kind of undo those bad habits and make you appreciate the context and the idea of make every rep count. Now, in the same vein, the struggle with this from a bodybuilding stance would be that there is no control of that cadence. More and more research is coming out that we are better off focusing on a stretch, so the lengthened partials and all this other stuff you may see from guys like Dr. Mike Israetel or Jeff Nippard and others, talking about the fact that the most hypertrophy comes from when that muscle is fully lengthened and stretched. We don't have any time to sit in that specific spot with flywheel training. In fact, there is almost no resistance at the fully lengthened part of the movement because there is no stretch in the same manner that there is a cable machine or dumbbells or plates or anything like that. That flywheel is pulling what you're pulling against, say in a row, but as soon as you hit that bottom, the weight or resistance kind of bottoms out and goes away. This is a potential negative from a hypertrophy perspective. Now, another one in the positive area is that because this is constantly adapting to each and every rep, it's kind of like a built-in drop set. If we were to do a drop set on a cable machine, we do a handful of reps at say 50 pounds, then 40 pounds, then 30 pounds, then 20 pounds, then 10 pounds, whatever it might be. We would have to max out our abilities at each stage, then drop back down and take a break and then adjust the pin or pull a plate off or whatever it is and keep going. With Flywheel, it is constantly adjusting to every single rep. So whatever you have, if you put the most into it you can on rep 1, is going to be the most you can do. And then from there, it might have this slow regression down until you get to whatever your final rep is for that set, where still, if you're putting the most you can in, it is going to kick back the most that you can handle. So it is a much more, it's a much smarter version of a drop set as opposed to trying to pre-program or adjust as you fatigue. It is constantly adjusting to that fatigue in every single rep. Okay, we're gonna flip that again and talk about progressive overload. So with a cable machine, if I wanna progress from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4, all I have to do is do either one more pound or one more rep. So 50 pounds for 10 reps in week 1 has to become 51 pounds, then 52 pounds and 53 pounds, or 50 pounds in 11 reps, 12 reps, 13 reps, something like that. We know that that works because 50 pounds is 50 pounds every single week. It does not matter. So by adding an extra pound or an extra rep, we know we did more in week 2 and then in week 3 and in week 4 than we did in the previous weeks. With a Flywheel, because it's constantly adapting, because if I put in a lot of effort or a little bit less than that, or somehow more than that from rep to rep, especially week to week, it would be very difficult to compare performance. There's almost no way to do that consistently, especially prior to the set. They do have a K meter, which is a little device that will measure that stuff and kick it back out to an app, but you're getting it after the fact, so there's no way to go into the set knowing what you need to do, which for me personally, if you tell me you're getting 6 reps today with this weight, that's what I'm getting. So it can be very hard to adjust that appropriately. Now, their app is obviously meant to be a more cohesive and comprehensive program and database and exercise repository and everything. That's not really what I want from most of my gym equipment. I run Juggernaut AI as my actual program, and there comes another issue. With Flywheel training, because you don't have a consistent number, because there actually isn't a pounds, it's hard to record what you did. You can record the reps for, say, Flywheel rows or squats or curls, but Juggernaut AI does not understand the metrics, the inertia items that go into the Flywheel training itself. And I'm pretty positive most apps that would run programming are not going to either. So Flywheel training has some hiccups in terms of its ability to meld with a typical program, be able to follow progressive overload from week to week and different things like that. Okay, so where does all that take us? Well, I think you have 2 decisions to make. So first is going to be around price. The kBox from Exxentric is a very well put together device as a whole. There are a couple of things I think they could improve that would help, at least in my specific situation. Yours might be different, so obviously factor those in for your own needs. But in general, it is a well put together piece that is going to hold together for a long time. At most, you might have to replace the strap, which they actually sent me a second one with the unit itself. That is a not very expensive piece if you had to replace it, say, every year or so. And it would probably be even less if I wasn't a newbie at this and learning as I went. Now that I know that that strap gets cut up occasionally, I just check for that before I do my sets. There are other Flywheel devices on the market. Exxentric actually offers 2 main ones themselves. The platform, the one that I have, as well as their pulley system, which looking at that now, I think might be the better option for the majority of home gyms. If you're looking to get something like this in place of a cable system or in addition to or some type of supplemental item to a cable machine as a whole, that would unlock not only curls, rows, lateral raises, and squat type variations, you'd also be able to bring it up your rack or wherever you put it. So that way you can do triceps and pull downs and all kinds of different stuff. There are some other companies that offer flywheel systems. My buddy Kurt over at the Kurt Locker is digging into a whole bunch of them as we speak. So I'm going to link his channel in the description below, which takes us to the second piece. I think that if your plan in terms of lifting, training, how you go into the gym is simply, I want to work out hard. If you train curls and rows and accessory work in general with a more, let's say, typical RPE stance, which just says, I just need to work within 1 or 2 or 3 reps of failure, then that is a fantastic piece. Flywheel training will absolutely challenge you. It is a cardio event with every set. It challenges your strength and your stability and your core and everything. It is a tough, brutal set every time I do something on the kBox. So you have 2 decisions to make. You have to decide, is flywheel training correct for you or not? And if it is, then you need to decide, what kind of home gym owner are you? If you're looking for the premium flywheel experience for your home gym, then the kBox or the Go Pulley from Exxentric is definitely the way to go. And that is it on the Exxentric kBox 5. Thanks to Exxentric for letting me do my thing for the last several months with their very cool device. I'm glad I got to dip my toes into flywheel training, figure out what it is, how it works, etc., and share all of that with you. Thank you to everyone who voted on my review pipeline. Once again, this is only here because you said you wanted to see it and Exxentric listened. So if you're out there watching this and want to see what's coming next, make sure you hit that link in the description. It will take you to the review pipeline where you can see what I'm currently working on, what's coming next, and you can vote on what you want to see me do after that. If you have a flywheel device or think you're going to pick one up, you're going to need some cable attachments as well. I also have a link in the description to my favorite cable attachments that I'm currently using on a regular basis. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. I'll be back with more home gym awesomeness for all of you very soon. Peace.